Welcome back, Leominsterites. We're here with our February episode of Representing Leominster, and I'm really excited to be kind of shifting a little bit of what we're doing and have a whole new group of folks today, and our largest group so far, and I'm here with the Leominster Historical Commission. And as the 2019 municipal elections are upon us, we're going to be talking a whole lot more to boards and commissions and looking at other ways that you can get involved. We're excited to kick it off with the Historical Commission. So we've got 4 on camera, 1 helping with the camera. so we've got Pat, Rocky, Chet, Mike, and Ron is helping get some close-ups. Right. So I would love to have you guys talk a little bit about what the Historical Commission does, kind of on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about how you got involved and how other folks can get involved. Who wants to kick us off?
We'll let Chet talk first.
The first family of Leominster.
Perfect.
What do we do? Lots of things.
You can start with that.
That's a good idea.
Massachusetts.
Well, we're commissioned under Mass General laws, too. And we're appointed by the City Council, the mayor and the City Council. The City Council okays us. And here's the general laws. Can you see that, Ron? Yeah. So we're under the state and the city.
Yeah.
So.
And how many members are on the commission right now?
9 permanent and 3 auxiliary ones, how would we call associates.
Associates, that's the word.
Associates.
We have 7 full actual commission members,
Great.
Yep.
and then we've got the associate members.
Associate. Right.
See, one of the things from what I've been since 2004 is I found that there was a lot of destruction of historical places. So in 1972, the governor asked the cities to set up a commission to save historical places.
Great.
And so, Chet, I think we started 1990 on the commission.
I came in 1995, I believe.
95.
The commission was established, I
Right.
believe, in 1972
Yeah, we should
by
start
Evelyn
with that.
Hatchie.
Okay.
So one of the things that we found that there were a lot of places that were destroyed and after the fact, and now we're trying to prevent it. We were able to pass the demolition delay law, which will give us 90 days to convince a person not to take the place down. We can't stop it, but we can just try to delay it a little bit. And so we managed to save a lot of places. And with Mike doing research on what's happened in the past, and Pat working on the book of the DPW and going right through, we're trying to make a comprehensive history of Leominster and say what we can.
That's what
We were very fortunate that when I started doing research and with the historical book over here, we're trying to plug this, by the way.
No, I love this book, and people love this book in our office. For folks who haven't seen my district office, Taylor and I lovingly deconstructed the book and put it a giant mural on our meeting table. So people love getting to look at the
seen that.
pictures and just look through Leominster history.
And so
we'll be in.
doing research for this book, we came across a lot of old photographs from the 1900s from Percy Johnson. And when I worked at the Society, I found photographs from Edmund Davis from 1853.
Wow.
And so we started reconstructing Leominster. And because of John Peretti having enough foresight to bring us these negatives before they were destroyed, we were able to picture, and we found that we had a park here in Leominster off of 117, which was called Leominster Lake and Park area, which is mostly like a Bolton Fair. They had the tents set up, everything else. And so this is, once they saw that, we got through it. Then with Chet doing the research, and then Pat doing the rest, we're finding more and more of Leominster history. And that's our main purpose, preserving.
And so how does someone get their hands on one of these books?
Go to the City Hall or come to us.
The mayor's office.
The mayor's office.
And
we
how
had-
much are they?
$40.
Okay,
And they're
great.
40.
Or 39 for 40.
We took a day, a dollar off again.
They all give me $40.
It was 50.
Yeah,
Well,
right.
one of the things too, working with Chet and so forth in the researching, is going through our files. Evelyn Hashey, which was the head person at the time in 1972, was working both as a historian for the society as well as the commission, and she gathered a lot of information. We're still going through our files to find out what's in there. And Pat's having a ball going through. We're finding old negatives or old film. And through Ron's efforts and the LTV working with us, we're able to take off stills from the photographs and put it into his book. And Pat can talk more about his book now.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about it.
Well, there's a lot to tell. I started working with the commission on this particular project back in 2010. I didn't realize we're going on 9 years, but at the time I was the public works director, so I was kind of busy doing that job. But I got the idea of maybe preserving the history of the public works department, and I found out it went back to 1742 when the town selectmen elected every year what they called highway surveyors. And they used to actually survey and map out the roads, the early roads here in Leominster. And they've had people working for the highway department since that time. So that to me was fascinating. So, you know, our history goes back almost 300 years. But it's a history of not only the highway department, but the water department. When the water started in 1873, sewer, believe it or not, came about 8 or 10 years after water, which was odd. Forestry, and the sewer department. We also take care of Doyle Field, which is a huge undertaking. So the various departments go back many, many years. We also, the cemeteries, Pine Grove and Evergreen, are under our control. So it's probably going to be around a 200-page book. I'm editing the final chapter, which is the water department.
Okay.
Janine LeBake from the public library has been my editor, and she's done a wonderful job.
Awesome.
After the final proofreading of that final edit, we're going to print it. And we received a grant from the Cultural Commission, and we hope to print it this spring. So I'm very excited about that.
That's awesome. And do you have something else, Chet?
Well, I think we should recognize Ron's Facebook page too. If you wanted to see some of these old pictures, I don't know if they have any there, do we? That,
do.
Pictures of.
Well, I know Ron has told me about
my mind's going
compiling
blank.
all of the old,
Sorry.
all of the old yearbooks, all of the history, and just even families that have found older photos that have
Right.
been donating them to be able to be chronicled by the
Yes,
Historical
we
Commission.
appreciate that.
Has been a
very
great
much.
thing. So if you have any photos or any mementos of Leominster history that you think the Historical Commission could use, they have ways to make sure that we all get to
And
experience that.
We'll videotape them or picture them and you give them back to them. We won't necessarily keep the originals
Right.
if they want to keep the originals. So that's great.
See, one of the things we're doing right now on our Facebook page is I had helped Fitchburg State University Italian Culture Center doing research on Italians in Leominster. And I posted Italians in Leominster, and we found old photographs that the family never knew existed. So they contacted me, and what we tell people, if you see something, come and we'll give you a copy of it as, you know, to show your family and our family if we can preserve it and what cultures they have here and the different places. Now, we found photographs in here of, by the society of when the Italians came over here and worked on the dams and so forth, they made makeshift houses. They didn't stay around, so they would work right on site and live right on the site to do that. So you can see the hard work that was done and what condition they have.
Yeah.
And in the research too, we found out that my wife's grandfather and the mayor's grandfather and a few more people from Leominster worked on the Clinton Dam. And
Okay.
so what they would have to do is they would take the trolley from Fitchburg to Leominster, and then from Leominster to Worcester, and stop at a Clinton Dam and going right through. Main thing, well, there was not many trees in Italy. Everything was made by stone cutting and so forth. And through experience with my father, he could look at a stone and knew where to split it. And so they brought that skill here. And when you look at the dam and everything else, that all the construction on the Moss Reservoir and so forth here in Leominster, was a lot of the construction from the areas, from the Irish, everything else. They all had their special skills in going right through. And so this is one of the fascinating things. So I learned more about my family heritage just doing the research here in Leominster with the Italians here. You get that going through.
Evelyn did that before.
No, that's great.
Yeah. And with Ron helping us with the videos and so forth, and Mike especially has been going for the past year doing research, what happened a year ago today or back in the past to the present, so forth. And we just put it in as a fill-in, but it got so popular that now Ron is on it full time, and so is Mike. And so the people, I didn't realize the interest in the history of Leominster, that they would come and look at, and they want to know what happened 10 years ago, 20 years ago, what happened here. So this is the fascinating part. This is a hobby.
Yeah, so have you found social media and the advent of social media really kind of reinvigorated your work and
Oh,
the
yeah.
interest in your work?
Definitely. It gave us the incentive to find more and going right through. And through the grants and so forth, going right, and we found out that American prisoners of war, they were Italian descent. We're finding Carter Park originally was a meeting hall with the train for the Revolutionary. Then you have, we were able to get into the mausoleum and seeing the old families that were buried there. And through Pat's help and so forth, learning more. It was just by accident that we found that on a tour at Evergreen, that Sam Fantozzi mentioned that there's a plot of land, and he says that was a flu burial ground. And we asked him more information, and then we started looking into research and found out that the flu in 1918 really hit Leominster, and that it got to the point where they had to have a mass grave because they didn't have money to pay for lots. So when you go into that, you start finding out more in the history of the things.
We just had the centennial on the flu pandemic.
Right.
Not as a celebration, obviously, but as a remembrance for everyone that died.
Right, right.
Yeah, Facebook has really provided a great outlet for us to share information. One of our goals is to share this history with the people on Facebook that are interested in it. And Ronnie's done some great stuff. Ronnie Gerard over there. He does a lot of. Just recently did a pictorial, a slide presentation on 1918 parade that was held downtown after the war had ended. Stuff like that. But we've got thousands and thousands of historical pictures, as Rocky said, that go back to actually prior to the Civil War, and we want to share those with the general public. And at some point, we've got a system called FileMaker, and we're putting all our information into that folder, and we're going to make it available for people to go online and take a look at all this stuff, because it's fascinating.
That's fantastic.
It's, these old photographers like Mr. Davis, Fred Park, and many others printed books and took photos going back, as Rocky said, back as far as 1853. And I have a lot of those pictures to make my book more interesting.
Right.
Thank God for that. Because, it's all about
Sewer and
numbers.
water
Sewer and water is not that interesting. But if you can see a picture of the old the Haynes Reservoir from 1900, things like that. We've got a picture of the Common, two kids sitting there in knickers in front of the old town hall, which I estimate to be taken from the late 1850s. So it's great stuff. And we want to share that with the public.
That's great.
Also, I think it's important to recognize that the commission has been helpful in many cases to getting different properties, historic properties, on the National Register of Historic Places, like the downtown area
Yeah.
Evelyn Hashey started that. We'll
Okay.
get that on. And also you have this new construction of old buildings, like the old high school up on West Street.
The Carter Building.
Yeah.
The Carter Building, yeah. That's after my time.
Right. Well, we call it, you call it the high school, the old high
Right,
school,
you know,
which it was.
Leominster High. But anyway, and that's progressing after many years of, well, we were helping and finally got it through the state and the national. And also you have the piano building on Adams Street. And also some of the places, I don't think City Place was
Yeah.
on there. Was City Place on
City
there?
Place too, which was a New
okay.
England novelty
But-
company at one time.
And Leominster Worsted Company.
Yeah, and and you also had Whitney Carriage, the apartment house was there,
Whitney, yeah.
so,
And you have the other one across the street from Whitney Carriage,
yeah.
which was the paper box company.
So you,
So if
So-
anybody has a ancient property,
How ancient does the property
a
have to
historic
be?
property, there is help if you want to preserve it and keep
Well,
it
prior,
going.
you know, early 1800s, prior to
Yeah.
1800.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, Chet, too, and I don't know if you, I don't want to cut in on you, but I don't want to forget the walking tours that we do
That's right.
downtown.
The high
with-
school.
I was going to bring those
the
up.
school.
With the school
Yeah.
children.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun for us, and I hope it's interesting for them.
Yes.
We all man a different station. We're at City Hall. We start at City Hall. The Society Building on School Street, which was open when I was a kid. There was a school. We go through the commission office, the police and fire departments, and then, of course, around the common, which is all very interesting. And there's a lot of historic buildings in that area.
I know they come through the Gallagher building. I get to see the kids, and they're always having a great time.
And
I'm
we-
either right before or after the fire station, so I'm not the highlight, but they're either really excited.
And what's nice is they can finish the tour, and they've only done this a couple times because it's predicated on weather, but they finish the tour by having lunch at Carter Park,
Right.
which is that old training ground that Rocky talked about, given to us in 1754, by the way. So that's a great program we do.
And we can't forget the library.
That's right.
Because
That's right.
Sarah, who is the children's director, I believe, does a wonderful job. All I have to do is get them in and out, and
Yeah.
she takes the tour. But it is wonderful.
No, we should be so proud of all of the
Yes.
historic places we have in Leominster
Right.
that have been preserved that we get to, or have been completely
Yeah.
renovated so that we can still capture them. The Carter Street School, like the Carter School, I'm really excited about that being saved.
when we contact Steve and everything else, Steve Cook, on the Carter Building, and as much help as we can, we try to
Review, yeah.
go right through and encourage it, because I live right across the street from there, and when I see that building being built, rebuilt, and knowing Ron was able, from LTV, get a drone aerial shots of how much damage was done to the roof. So you can just imagine the water seeping through all the way down to the bottom. So they have a major problem of cleaning it all out from the inside and going through. But to see all this old historical places being rebuilt and going right through, this is our main goal, and this is what we want to see.
Absolutely. And you brought some photos. Do we want to take a look at some of the Leominster Celebrates?
Yeah, these were made for the centennial of the Leominster becoming a city in 1915, so these are now 4 years old. And these are one of our works there. Zoom in on it, Ron, if you want.
These are great because, and thank you, you've let us borrow some of these that we have on display in our office as well.
Yep.
When we were putting together our anniversary of the 275th, we were able to go through our files, and Percy Johnson's photographs that John Peretti let us borrow and copy. We found a lot of different things, the different changes in the life of
Fire department.
Leominster.
The different buildings.
Please don't forget about the
Just to point something out on this picture, Natalie, you see the bottom right-hand side? See that old building next to the fire station on Church Street?
Yes,
That's the first city barn.
really.
In other words, the Public Works Department. We
Yeah.
still call it the city barn. And
Yeah.
that's the first barn that we occupied.
So you guys were right downtown.
Back in, that was, the fire station was built in 1899, I believe. And we were there till the 1920s.
Okay.
which is pretty neat.
And did you go immediately to the location you're at now? or did
Yes,
you-
from there to there, yes.
Okay.
And the water department was located on Pleasant Street, right near Frank's Auction House,
Okay.
for quite a time after. They didn't move to the present site till the 1970s.
Okay.
With the garages, the National Garage, wasn't that a temporary place they stayed? And then they moved across the street to the present location?
Which garage, Rocky?
Is that, this to be the National Garage, a national car dealership. At one time, that was the DPW area. That was like a temporary spot between the fire station there, and then they went into their present site.
Okay.
No, I wasn't aware of that. I know that the forestry department was, for a short time, had nowhere to go. They used to use Manson Hawes's barn over on Main Street for years. And then they moved to the Lancaster Street Fire Station, and they were given a basement space there for a number of years.
Didn't we speak about demolition? Larry?
We did.
Did we?
Yep,
Yeah.
we did.
Okay. All right, I got one article to go, and I want to do it as we close.
Sure, perfect. I will. So this is kind of the development of the city, and
That's most of the history of Leominster, starting from was it 1740?
1740 was the
1740,
town.
showing the different areas of Leominster that is still historical, going right through, and bringing up to the pleasant point of Shulin Farms, which was another accomplishment by the city to save that farm.
Absolutely.
And I could take my grandchildren there to pick apples. I grew up with apples in my yard, and to see them and actually bite an apple right off the tree, I mean, you can't beat that taste.
You might mention, two of us on the commission worked there when we were kids.
Yeah.
at the farm?
Yeah.
The farm.
Thinning apples.
Getting back to the flu pandemic.
Okay.
This is
Oh, wow.
Leominster, this is a
Kansas.
US Army, yeah, a
That's in
camp person in
Kansas.
Kansas.
But just to give an idea of just how.
These scenes were seen all over the country. The people,
Where it originated.
Yeah.
The flu.
the veterans coming home from the war just spread it all over the country.
Yeah. In 1918, Fort Devens was only supposed to be in the hospital, maybe 400 people, but they ended up in thousands. And this is typical how the layout would be. They were coming fast and furious, and they made temporary type of deal.
Yeah.
And so forth, when we did the research on the flu, I mean, it's kind of some of the things Mike dug up was that they would be drafted into the service, and 2 weeks later they were dead because of the flu epidemic at Fort Devens. Fort Devens is, in our area, it was the epidemic center for the flu.
The epicenter.
Epicenter.
Yeah.
And it came into Leominster. If you take a look at the area of Mechanic Street, in that area there, a lot of the veterans and so forth were living in that area. And we found that in Mechanic Street, what's the street where Middle Street, where garage is, that we had lost 13 people in that one area alone.
Wow.
So you're going through, so Mike, what was the final count on that?
174 from Leominster, I believe.
Just from Leominster.
So you can just imagine the panic that was going through. And the people that survived were the older people because they went through the flu in 1895.
Okay, so their
they
immune
built it.
system.
So we lost a lot of young people
Right.
in that area there.
Mostly young people.
And that's just goes to show what the system was at that time.
So we have a few minutes left.
Yeah.
I don't know if there are any photos, additional photos we want to highlight.
This, you see about
Richardson's,
1900,
yeah.
the Silas Richardson funeral procession heading
And-
over to the Evergreen Cemetery.
Okay.
You know, this is what Leominster was. But
No, this is great that you have been able to capture all of these and make sure that we all get to experience them.
It was fun.
We can thank the people for donating. This came from Richard's Funeral Home. He let us borrow it, and so that we could have an idea of what
Yeah.
the funeral cars were at that
We
time.
got Mr. Rooney.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now it's in my cemetery section of my book. It's a great photo.
No, that is a great photo.
Right.
And that's typical of what we want to share with the general public. It's great stuff.
These down here, these are pretty much
More
the same.
food stuff.
Yeah.
As you can see, a lot of horses were used for power and so forth in the construction business. Give you an idea of the whole thing. And this, we can thank Percy Johnson's photographs for recapturing all that, rather than being lost and being destroyed. Thank God people, I know when I was growing up, we would throw away the negatives, figure you're never going to reproduce them.
Right.
But some people saved them, and that's our help.
Chet, did you have some closing remarks? Did you get your closing remarks in?
I don't want to miss what you want to
Not
share
yet.
with us.
Well, do let me
Yeah,
know.
let's
You better
go
do it.
next.
You better do it.
Yeah, we're running out of time.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay. It's just a reminder, but anyway, people don't understand the difference between the Historic Commission and the society.
No, perfect. This is great.
This is it. Local historical commissions are the official agents of a municipal government responsible for community-wide historic preservation planning. Local historic district commissions, which we don't have that, are municipal bodies responsible for regulatory design review within designated local historic districts. Local historical societies are private organizations concerned with the preservation of city and town histories through the records, collections, and properties they maintain. Two different entities.
Yeah, so your work really complements each other, but you're the official body of the city government.
Correct.
Right.
The city of Leominster.
Yes.
See, we both belong to both the society and thing. I started off at the society, and then when they needed help on the book,
Yeah.
I came for a week, and I've been there since 14 years.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing some of the work that you're doing. And for folks that are interested in getting involved with the Historical Commission, we're going to make sure that we share your contact information. We'll share links to your website and to your social media pages on our social media pages. And I just want to thank you all so much for coming in. And I got to give a major shout out to Ronnie Gerard for helping with the close-ups and all of the work that he's been doing with the Historical Commission and making sure that all of the videos and photos are getting available on your social media pages, because I know he's been working so hard on that. But thank you so much for coming.
you.
We'll be back in March with a new board and commission, and so we're really excited to continue to have this conversation, show other ways that folks can get involved, and as always, reach out to the mayor's office if you're interested in being appointed to one of these boards or commissions, because there are almost always openings across the city. So thank you so much for joining us this week, and we will see you next month.